What does mean mean?
What does mean? Mean can mean signify. For example, what does this word mean? So what does it signify? It can mean intend. For example, I mean to work harder next year. It can mean miserly or stingy. For example, Tom's so mean, he never buys anyone a beer. Or it can mean bad or unkind. Don't be mean to Tom, he's not so bad.
So mean has more than one meaning.
That's right, it's a homonym. And that's what we're talking about on this episode of
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello, I'm Craig.
And I'm Reza.
And with over 45, well, it must be nearly 50 years now of teaching English between us, Reza and I are going to help you improve all aspects of your English and take it up to the next level. How are you, Reza?
I'm fine. That's bien, by the way. It's not multa. I'm fine.
To fine someone, to pay a fine. Yeah, well, I'm good to hear you're fine.
How are you?
I'm fine too. No fines for me to pay. So we're all about homonyms in this episode of the podcast. And back in episode 235, we spoke about homophones. To remind you, they are words with the same pronunciation, but with different spelling and different meanings. And this week, we're speaking about homonyms. Homo is the same. Nym is name. So the same name.
So homonyms are spelled the same.
Did you say smelled the same?
Did they smell? I haven't checked their smell, actually. They might smell the same.
They smell the same.
They smell the same. And homonyms are spelled the same and sound the same, but they have different meanings.
That's right. That's correct. Now, right is, or can be, a homonym. So right can be correct. That's the right answer. What's the other meaning of right?
Well, simply the opposite of left. Should I turn left? No. Turn right at the traffic lights and the pub is on your right. And the pub is on your right, so la derecha.
La derecha. It can also be something you are entitled to. Your rights. Stand up for your rights. For example, the accused's right to defend herself in court. The right of free speech, for example. So 3 meanings of the same word.
And it's interesting that it's nearly a homonym in Spanish, but not quite. Because la derecha, turn right, turn left, and tu derecho, your right to defend yourself. So it's nearly, but not quite a homonym in English, or beg your pardon, in Spanish. The only difference is masculine and feminine, derecha, derecho.
And what is law if you study law in Spanish?
Derecho.
Derecho.
So law itself is derecho, and then within the law you have your rights, tus derechos.
Let's look at some more examples of homonyms. There's the word address, which can mean to speak to. You can address an audience, for example. And of course, it's also where you live, your location. So my address is in Valencia.
But it's a secret address. Where we record this podcast is a secret address. It can never be revealed because we'd probably never get a chance to podcast because all our fans would be coming to visit us. So we must record at a secret address.
Reza, it's on the website, mate.
All right, okay.
My address. No, it's not on the website. It's in the email. We have an email newsletter that you can sign up for, and we remind you of the episodes we've produced every month. So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, go to inglespodcast.com and join our newsletter. ARM, A-R-M, ARM.
Right. When people think of that, they probably firstly think of a body part. So not your leg, but above your leg, your arm. True. But Craig, there's another meaning of arm, is there not?
Yes, it can be the division of a company. For example, a company can have a legal arm. The legal arm of a company will be in touch. And of course, arm is also a synonym of weapon. So the verb to arm yourself is to defend yourself with a weapon or with an arm, like a gun or a rifle.
Band is a word I'm sure you know, or if not, you could guess, adivinar, that it means banda. So a musical group is a band, but a band can also be a ring. For example, in the collocation, a wedding band. When you get married, the wedding ring is often called a band, a ring, un anillo. Also, a band, we as English teachers know very well, can mean a grade. So when you do an IELTS exam or a Cambridge exam or just about any English exam these days, you get grades, marks, scores, according to bands. So in the writing, 5 is the top band and 1 is the bottom band.
Who's your favourite rock band?
Ooh, I couldn't say. There's so many I like. I wouldn't say I have one particular favourite band. Do you?
Well, let me narrow it down for you. To narrow it down means give you fewer choices, make it easier. Who's your famous heavy rock band from the 70s?
Heavy rock, 1970s? Mm-hmm. Heavy rock, 1970s. British, 70s heavy rock. We could be talking maybe Iron Maiden. Mm-hmm. We could be talking 70s heavy rock. That's more like heavy metal, isn't it? Heavy rock. Status Quo, or could we call the Rolling Stones heavy rock? No, they're more like a rhythm and blues kind of thing. Heavy rock, 1970s.
You're struggling.
Heavy rock, Queen? Maybe no. Well, they're just rock.
Rock pop.
Heavy rock, 1970s. Hold on, sure it's on the tip of my tongue.
You've forgotten the greatest band that there ever was out of Britain in the 1970s.
1970s. Heavy rock.
You've forgotten. How could you forget?
Not Iron Maiden.
This is embarrassing.
Heavy rock. Ooh, I can't. Give us a clue.
2 words. First word begins with L. Second word begins with Z.
Okay, of course. It had to be Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, man. Come on.
And I'm a fan of that band myself.
Stairway to Heaven. Hey, what's that? What's that noise? Is that Coco? I can hear. Is that Coco? What's Coco doing? I'm going to put that sound effect in. Don't worry. Well, you can bark if you want.
I'm barking mad.
That's Coco barking. So to bark is the noise a dog makes. And it's something else, isn't it? What other use can the word bark have? B-A-R-K.
This might be a new word for most listeners. It's the outer layer, la capa, the layer of a tree. Kind of like the skin of a tree, if you like, is the bark.
Another word beginning with B, bat, is a homonym because bat you can use to hit a ball, a cricket bat, a baseball bat, and also a nocturnal flying mammal, as in Batman.
Bright is an adjective. Adjectives can also be mixed up with other types of words to be homonyms. So bright can mean very smart or intelligent. He's really good student. He's really bright. Yeah, he's got a good brain. He's bright. Or this room is very bright. It's because there's such a big window. It's filled with light. 2 meanings of the adjective bright.
You can also have the opposite of that. A dim room has very low light, D-I-M, and a dim person is not bright. It's the opposite.
No tiene muchas luces, as they say in Spanish, yeah.
The lights are on, but there's nobody home.
Craig, the word current is a very up-to-date word. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes, it's very current, isn't it?
Current, isn't it? So up-to-date, current, what's happening now. But it also means a flow, like the flow of water, or it could be the flow of electricity. Don't touch that wire. It has current in it. There's electricity flowing in it. You could kill yourself. Or be careful if you swim on the beach with very violent currents. You could end up in the middle of the ocean. The flow of the water could be really strong currents.
So why is this joke funny? My grandfather died in a bowl of muesli. A strong current pulled him in. Why? That's not a homonym, that's a homophone, isn't it?
A homophone, yeah. Because of course, the word current.
With an A.
With an A is uva pasa, a current, a dried grape. Yeah, a current. Right. Very good.
A strong current pulled him in. So you get strong currents in the sea, in rivers, that sometimes can be dangerous if you're not a good swimmer.
Now, express is a word I'm sure you know. An express train is a train that moves fast. Or if you do something express, you do it quickly. But of course, it's also the verb to show your thoughts. Could be by using words. Some people express themselves well in words. Other people express themselves in music. Or other people express themselves in dance. It's a way of showing your thoughts or emotions.
Yeah, I'm not very good at expressing myself in Spanish because I don't have enough vocabulary. I don't express myself very well. So remember, express yourself is reflexive. Express himself, express yourself. Next we have kind, K-I-N-D, which can mean the type of something. For example, Reza, what kind of mobile phone do you have?
An ancient Samsung, which is probably about to explode, which I must change quickly.
Well, maybe somebody close to you, somebody very kind, will buy you a new one. So kind can also mean caring. If you care for someone, if you're a good person, you are kind. The opposite, of course, is unkind.
Craig, do you ever lie?
Would you mean tell things that are not true or put myself in a horizontal position? Because I do that very often.
Which one? Put yourself in a horizontal position?
Lie down, yeah. I must lie down after my lunch. I get very tired. I'm going to lie down.
So to recline, to put yourself horizontal.
But I don't lie very often. I'm trying not to lie. That's my New Year's resolution.
To say something untrue. Yeah. It can also be to be situated. The city of Valencia lies on the Mediterranean coast. That means that's where it's situated. Or the little village lies in the middle of the mountains.
At the beginning of the podcast, we used examples of mean, M-E-A-N, mean, which means to signify something, to intend to do something. I've been meaning to phone my grandmother, but I haven't done it this week. Stingy, tacaño, rácano, and not nice. A mean person is the opposite of kind. Someone who's just not very nice. Que no es amable. There's another meaning of mean, isn't there?
Yes, it can also mean, significar mean, average, which is el medio. So, for example, if many people in a group are aged 30, many are aged 31, and many are aged 32, let's say the mean age is the one in the middle, 31.
Many people listen to this podcast on Spotify. If you are a Spotify listener, you can find this podcast there. About 2,000 to 3,000 people a month listen to our podcast on Spotify, but the mean average is 2,500. The mean average.
Now, Craig, earlier you were asking me about the best rock band
Led Zeppelin.
from the 1970s in Britain, and I agree it is Led Zeppelin. I can't believe it. I didn't get it at first.
Me neither.
So obviously rock is a type of music, a genre of music. But of course a rock is also a stone, una roca. It's another meaning of rock. But of course it has the verb meaning as well, as to move abruptly from side to side. You know, like, for example, if you sit in a rocking chair, you know, one of those chairs which has like a curved base at the bottom, so it moves backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. You would be rocking, or just moving from side to side, like listening to music, like rock and roll. That's why we call it rock and roll, because originally this music was played and as a new phenomenon, people thought, hey, it makes you rock. It makes you go from side to side. So that's why they called it rock and roll.
Do you agree that the difference between a rock and a stone is purely size? A rock is bigger?
Yes. Although exactly how big, you could argue about that. Yeah.
You can have a small rock and a big stone. Spring, S-P-R-I-N-G, obviously a season. Spring comes before summer. But it's also coiled metal. If you remember the days before digital watches, you opened a watch and looked inside, you'd probably see a spring. And in old beds, in mattresses, colchones, in mattresses, we used to have spring mattresses.
Still today.
Not so common, though. Usually
Mine is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought you had a memory foam.
No.
Oh.
And I tell you what, I'm going to buy a new mattress, un colchón, within the next few months. And I'm going to buy one with springs.
You prefer springs to the foam?
Yep, I do. But mine will be springs, but maybe with a bit of latex on top of the spring.
Now you're talking.
So my body is not touching the springs. But in the middle, spring, yeah. For me, the best is a hybrid. Híbrido. A mixture of springs in the middle, but the bit where I actually lie, that's tumbarme, not mentir. Well, maybe I mentir in la cama as well, but that's another story. He's covered in latex.
You lie about the latex in your bed.
I'm talking about lying in bed and latex. That's a dangerous cocktail.
It is a dangerous cocktail.
Let's not talk anymore about me and latex in bed. I don't want my listeners to feel ill.
And cocktails in bed. But no, seriously, bed's very, very important. If you're not in bed, you're wearing your shoes. So the two most important things in life, your shoes and your bed. If you're not in one, you're in the other. There's also a meaning of spring as a verb, which means to jump, saltar. I sprang up when I heard the good news.
Spring, sprang, sprung, an irregular verb. Yes,
Spring, sprang, sprung.
Craig, tender is a nice word.
Love me tender, love me true.
It's the king of rock and roll himself. It's Elvis.
Talking of rock and roll.
Elvis is in the building.
Love me tender. Yeah, gentle, softly. A tender touch or a tender kiss. What else does it mean?
It also has a meaning which might be new to our listeners as an offer of money. But let me explain it. It needs a bit more explanation. When a government or a council, ayuntamiento, or something like that, wants a private company to do something for them, in other words, for example, collect the rubbish or clean the streets or something like that, the private company will have to give a tender. They say how much money they will charge to perform that service.
It's like an offer, isn't it?
Like an offer of how much you're prepared, or how little, because what interests the government is to pay as little as possible, how little you're prepared to accept to do a job. Everybody knows in real life then they always double the price afterwards, but that's another story. Whoever gives the best tender, the lowest, gets the work.
You can also tender your resignation, which is also to offer. You offer your resignation when you resign from your job. You can say, I've tendered my resignation, which is a formal way of saying I'm leaving the company.
Well, now, Craig, let's go on. What's the next one?
Well, now, well is one meaning of well, entonces. You can also be of good health. You can feel well. If you feel well, well there is an adverb. Of course, well can also be pozo, which is a well, a source of water. So you put a bucket inside a well to bring up water. Or you can have an oil well as well. También, as well. So well also has several meanings.
Or as Craig just said, también, bien, okay. Well, okay, means okay.
Well now, what about bank?
Our bank shouldn't be too difficult for listeners because it's also a homonym in Spanish, banco, where money is kept, el banco, the bank, but also a deposit of other things such as data, fish, blood, sand, a big group, or where things are deposited is a bank. And in Spanish, it's also un banco. Banco de sangre, banco de pescado. A large group, a collection of something. But there is one in English which is different, which is the side of a river. That's not banco in Spanish. That's ribera, isn't it? Or something like that. Or el ribera or el costado, is it? Something like that. But I know it's not banco. And you've got that word in Spanish, el banco, where you sit.
Bench.
Yes, that's not the same word in English. That's bench. Are you getting impressed by Craig's improving Spanish? It's coming along.
Well, I didn't know the Spanish word for the bank of a river, so you've got that one up on me, as they say. But notice that Reza used compound nouns when you put those two words together, whereas in Spanish you'd say banco de pescado. You change the order, remove the preposition, so you've got a blood bank or a sand bank or a data bank. So you create a compound noun with the word bank.
Listen to Craig's Spanish is fantastic. Banco de pescado. Craig, your Spanish is fine. I would describe it as perfectly fine. I don't know why you're worried about it. It's fine.
You mean fine multa?
No, I mean fine. All right.
Okay.
So we got another homonym with fine.
Yes, and of course it's also a financial punishment, una multa. It can be a verb and a noun. You pay a fine if you break the law, parking fine, and you can use it as a verb to fine something. Use it in the passive. I was fined for parking on a zebra crossing.
And I think Craig's Spanish is fine. That means it's all right. It's not bad.
Could be worse. Head, H-E-A-D, is our next homonym. So obviously you have a head on your body. It's a body part. But how else can we use head?
Well, it can be the person who's in charge, or it can be the verb to lead or to be in charge. So, for example, in our company, Peter is the head of the legal arm. He's the head. Or you could say he heads the legal arm. He's in charge, so a verb or a noun. Or it can be to go in a specific direction. Where are you going? Oh, we're just heading to the pub. Are you coming with us? We're going in that direction.
And you'd use to as a preposition, yeah? I'm heading to the beach, I'm heading to the cinema.
Right.
We had kind before as a type of something, but you could also use the word sort, S-O-R-T. So what kind of mobile phone is that? What sort of mobile phone or what type? They're all very similar. And of course, if you put things in order, then you sort them. So I'm sorting the papers on my desk. I'm sorting the notes for the podcast. I'm arranging and organizing them. So what sort is it? ¿Qué tipo? What type? And to sort papers, for example, to organize them.
Very often when you're organizing an event, you hear someone say, oh, don't worry, I'll sort it out. I'll sort it out. Or you can leave out the word out and just say, I'll sort it. That means I'll organize it.
When you do something, you can say, yep, it's sorted, which means it's done. Está hecho. Ya está hecho. It's sorted. It's done.
Now, the next word I was asked specifically is to clarify by Coco. He said it was causing an awful lot of confusion, and could I clear this up? The word dog, which of course is an animal.
Hello, Coco.
Woof woof, Coco, if you're listening. But there's another meaning of dog. This is what's been dogging Coco. He doesn't like people misusing the word dog because it means to persistently bother. So if a thing dogs you, it persistently bothers you. For example, the football player is having a bad season in the temporada. He has been dogged by injury. Injuries keep bothering him. They won't go away. It's a persistent problem. He's dogged by injuries.
Are you being dogged by anything at the moment?
Well, just Coco, who keeps making special requests.
You're being dogged by the dog.
Yeah. But I know he's a keen listener, so I thought I better just clear that up.
You can also have a dog-eared book. If you use a book a lot and sometimes to remember the page, you double over, doblar. The corner of the page looks like the ear of a dog. So if a book is dog-eared, then it's used a lot and the pages are not new anymore. They are dog-eared.
Now, I'm sure nearly all the listeners would have no problem with the word theatre meaning a place for acting. You can see a Shakespeare play in a theatre. But maybe not all of them know that it's a place for surgery. Chirurgia. So for a medical operation, sometimes you end up in the theatre where they operate. But there's a third meaning, which is less common, but still used sometimes, a place for war operations. So you hear them talking about in a big war like the Second World War. They talk about the Pacific Theatre and the Russian Theatre, the kind of area of operations, because there were many theatres, places where the war happened.
The theatre of war is not a pretty sight. Chair, C-H-A-I-R, one of the first words you learn when you learn English. There are 4 chairs in the room. Please take a chair and sit down. Of course, it's a piece of furniture, but you can also chair a meeting. The person who chairs a meeting is the chairperson. Chairman if it's a man, chairwoman if it's a woman. So to be the chair of an organization, of a meeting, or of a company.
Now, in a previous episode, not long ago, we spoke about homophones, which is something related to homonyms, where you have one pronunciation of 2 different words. So it's useful to spell, to use individual letters to identify what word you're talking about. For example, if I say sight, S-I-T-E, or sight, S-I-G-H-T, I need to be able to spell the lettr to be able to distinguish. You all know that, I'm sure. But there's another meaning or 2 of spell. We've got a magic power. So, for example, Harry Potter goes to magician school to learn how to cast spells. Echar magia. So it's a magic power. But it also means a short period. For example, today there might be a short spell of rain. Or you could say, I was feeling depressed for a spell, but I'm okay now. For a period, for a spell.
Next word is bear, B-E-A-R, which is also it's an animal. So black bear or polar bear. But it can also mean to tolerate or aguantar, to bear. I can't bear. I can't stand it. I can't bear it when the neighbours are making noise and we're trying to podcast. It really gets on my nerves. I can't bear it.
Craig has said to me on more than one occasion, he said, I can't bear to hear another word about Mickey in Orlando. It's driving me mad, he says.
I don't think that's a very just thing to say.
Oh, another homonym. He thinks it's not fair. He thinks I'm exaggerating. I'm not being fair. I'm not being just. It's true. Maybe I am a little bit unfair.
He's just a mouse.
He's just a mouse. That's the only thing he is. Nothing more.
Yeah.
He's only a mouse. Another meaning of just. And can you see? I've just made another joke about Mickey. I couldn't stop. I've just recently done it. So 3 meanings of just, only, fair, and recently.
Now you can emphasize these homonyms by putting the word in the same sentence. Sounds a bit strange, but let's give you some examples so that you can remember the meaning of some of these. What's the first one, Reza?
Well, we're doing this as a kind of joke thing maybe, but let's see if you get the meaning. I can't bear to see that poor panda bear suffer.
No aguanto.
Sí, yeah, exactly. Yeah. No aguanto. I can't bear. No puedo tolerar. Bear, oso panda. Panda bear suffer. So we got the 2 bears.
Well, doctor, do you think I'll be well soon?
2 wells. The first well, bien. And the second, bien. But 2 different types of bien. Bien as in entonces, bien, let's continue. And the second, bien as in de salud.
And then the doctor says, you will be well when you stop drinking that water from the well.
It's contaminated.
It's contaminated.
Now, if you're from the Valencia area, or maybe from just the Levante in general, you probably know that the municipal band of Llíria are definitely in the top band of groups in Valencia province. They're a band who are in the top band, una banda, in la gama alta, or the top division, the top band, one of the best.
Do they play well?
Very well. Bien, not pozo. They play bien.
When I got hit by the car the other day, I had that spell of amnesia, and I couldn't remember how to spell words that I know well. 2 uses of spell: a spell of amnesia or a spell of dizziness. I had a dizzy spell, and I couldn't remember how to spell some words.
Craig, I don't understand what you're saying.
What I mean is that we don't mean to be so mean to you. Sorry.
Now, what's happening there, Craig? What on earth is that sentence about?
What I mean is, lo que quiero decir, is what we didn't mean, no fue nuestra intención, to be so mean to you, tratarte tan mal.
Have 3 meanings of the word mean.
Yeah, meaning's confusing. Have you ever had a student say to you, "Excuse me, Reza, what does mean?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had it.
Me
¿Qué
too.
significa mean? Strange. Well, now, it's your turn to practice.
Well, no.
Homophones, homonyms, or whatever you like in English. Why don't you send us a voice message? If you can include the use of homonyms, we'll be very pressed.
And we will play your message in a future episode.
So let's see how well you can use homonyms. Just send it to speakpipe.com/Inglespodcast.
Remember, you can do that on your mobile phone, on an Android phone using Chrome or Firefox. If you are using an iPhone, you do have to download the separate SpeakPipe app. If you prefer to get in touch by email, my address is craig@inglespodcast.com.
And mine is belfastreza@gmail.com.
And before we go, we'd like to thank all our wonderful patrons who are supporting the podcast on Patreon. The names are listed on the website. Special thanks to Bruno, our gold sponsor, without whose generosity we would not be able to provide you with the transcriptions every month. So thank you very much, Bruno, and all our patrons who are helping to provide transcriptions. Why not go and give some love back to Bruno? If you're going to Copenhagen, go and look at his walking tours available for Copenhagen at copenhagenwalkingtour.com in Spanish or in English. And if you're going to Rio, or you live in the area and you'd like to do a tour of the city, go and check out the favela area. More information at favelawalkingtour.com.br. These tours are very safe, very interesting, and also help the community to improve financially. And if you'd like to join our Patreon program, Reza, where can they go?
You can go to patreon.com/Inglespodcast. And remember, all you need to donate is as little as $1 a month to get access to all those transcriptions that Angelica Bello has lovingly done for us.
And before we go out the door, we'd like to welcome our newest Patreon supporters, Oliver Burgos and Luis Jimenez. Thank you for joining us on Patreon. What's next week, Reza?
Well, we have to head off now, but if you can bear to wait another week, we'll be talking about body language.
Body language, one of my favourite subjects. That's next week. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. And until then, have a wonderful week. Goodbye from Reza.
And bye-bye from Craig.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.